This episode is sponsored by Smart Travel, a new podcast from NerdWallet. You know that one friend who always finds the best travel deals, picks the right cards, and somehow ends up in first class for the price of coach? How do they do that? Well, Smart Travel is like that friend, but in podcast form. They cover all things travel finance, like which travel cards earn their keep and which are just heavy, shiny metal, and planning group trips that won't ruin your budget or your friendships. So travel smarter and spend less. That's the key with help from NerdWallet. Follow Smart Travel wherever you get your podcasts. Armchair Explorer is a part of the Voyescape podcast network. Check out all of their shows from around the world at voyescape.com.
I came face to face with grizzly bears. I had to befriend drug lords. I saw 2 people shot dead. I witnessed a guy trying to kill his wife with 5 gunshots. I crossed the tallest mountains in the world. I had to swim rivers with horses. I was lost in deserts, and nothing, absolutely nothing, brought me more pain and heartache than man-made lines drawn across a map.
Hey guys, welcome to Armchair Explorer. My name's Aaron Miller. I'm a travel writer and your host. And today we've got a really incredible adventure story for you. A long rider is someone who has ridden a horse for more than 1,000 continuous miles on a single equestrian journey. It's unique among adventure styles and that it's more than just you. A long ride is a partnership with another living being that relies on you and that you have to care for, and ultimately that cares for you too. This is the story of one of the greatest long rides in history. 2 years, 10 countries, 3 amazing horses, and 10,000 miles of adventure. From Calgary in Canada to the town of Espírito Santo do Pinhão in Brazil, this is the story of Filipe Massetti's long ride home. Are you ready? Let's go. Filipe is a great storyteller, and I think you're really going to love hanging out with him. If you love horses, oh my God, are you going to love this episode? And if you don't, oh my God, are you going to love this episode anyway? His Instagram is at Filipe Masetti. That's Masetti with 2 T's and 1 S. He's written 3 books about this as well, one about this journey and 2 others that tie in, as you'll see later. The book of this story is called The Long Ride Home. I also urge you to check out the documentary he made about this journey. It's called The Long Rider. A journey of 25,000 kilometers starts with a single stride. It's great. I watched it preparing for my interview with Filipe, and it's really well put together. It's very professional. It's beautiful. And there's just loads more than we could possibly fit into this show. So if you enjoy this episode, check out the documentary. You can rent it from Amazon or wherever you get your shows. So we're just about to get going, but really quickly, a reminder, if you can, follow me on Instagram at armchair-explorer podcast. I'd love to know what you think of this episode. I'd love to hang out. I have not 1, but 2, maybe actually 3 runaway horse stories. I'll be sharing those in honor of this episode, and don't miss them. There is one near miss in Colombia and another where I was saved in the Arabian desert by a man named Hussein, who later claimed that he loved me. I don't think his English was very good, but I'll take the compliment anyway. So follow me on at Armchair Explorer Podcast. Another huge thing you can do is review the show. We are knocking on the door of 200 reviews, which is actually not that many, and I'd love to get over that 200 line. I only need about another 10 or so on Apple and Spotify to make it. So if you can just go there, don't even need to write anything, just hit those glowing 5-star reviews. It really helps. It means a lot to me personally, and it really helps with people discovering the show, as does recommending it to a fellow adventurer, whether it's this story or another one that connected with you. Pass that on if the mood strikes you. It's how we grow this community of explorers that want to see the world and live life to the full. I'm sure that sounds exactly like you. But enough of me, because we're saddled up, ready to go, and our long ride is about to begin.
So I always say that I feel like my destiny was written before I was even born. You know, my dad loved horses his entire life. So my parents gave me the name Filipe because it means a friend of horses. And before I could even walk with my own legs, there's photos of me and my old man atop a quarter horse, you know, riding around and swinging a rope and just learning the trades of what it's like to care for these animals.
And then one day when he was still barely old enough to reach the stirrups, his dad decided that he needed to learn to jump. Once you can jump a horse, he said, you can do anything. But you also need to be able to gallop. So he signed him up to a local equestrian school.
I must have been, I don't know, like 5 years old. We let these horses go and everything's okay. We're galloping and all of a sudden I lose my horse and my hands are so small, like I have no strength. So I'm trying to pull back on the reins, but the horse is like, what is it, a fly on my back, right? It doesn't feel anything because I'm so tiny. And this horse is just galloping away and galloping and galloping and galloping. And like I say in the film, although I was petrified at that moment, like I was so scared. I didn't know what was going to happen, if I was going to die, if this horse was going to fall into a hole, if the horse was going to fall on top of me. But at the same time, I remember thinking like, oh my God, like I love this feeling, you know, like that feeling of freedom, the adrenaline, you know, it's like I was flying for a couple seconds there in that, in the chaos of it all. So I was never able to truly forget that, you know, like it's always been inside my DNA, I think.
When he was a little kid, Filipe says he was terrified of everything. So his dad started reading to him from a book called Chifley's Ride by Aim Chifley, a Swiss school teacher who in 1925 saddled up 2 Creole horses and rode from Buenos Aires to New York City. A journey of 10,000 miles, 3 years, and innumerable hardships from quicksand bogs and thick jungles to the high passes of the Andes.
I fell in love with that story so much. I don't know why, but you know, it took my imagination to such a beautiful place. I remember being on my little horse in our ranch in Brazil, imagining I was that Swiss school teacher. You know, this is like age 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Just, you know, imagining that I was crossing the desert on horseback, getting to the Andes, arriving in Mexico, and every night he would read a part of that story to me to kind of show me that fear didn't exist. You know, it was kind of my dad's teaching method of just in a beautiful manner explaining to me that fear was this monster that lives in all our minds, and if you don't shut it down, you will never do anything. And he would say, you know, Chifley was scared, but he went and he did it, and with his horses Mancha and Gato, and I love the story so much. So that's where the dream began to one day go on my own long ride.
Chifley's journey was, and still is, perhaps the most famous long ride in history, at least before Filipe. And as he grew up, and the pages of that book became book-eared and worn from reading and rereading, he never forgot it. At 9 years old, his family moved from Brazil to Canada. It was the first time, he says, that he faced adversity. It was terrifying for him. He had no friends, he didn't speak the language, but he built a life there. It became his home. And then out of the blue, when he was 18 years old, his father's work permit wasn't renewed, and they were told to go back to Brazil. They weren't Canadian citizens, and they weren't allowed to be here anymore. They had 15 days to leave.
And just, you know, feeling like you're from this place in every way, shape, or form. Like you got maple syrup in your veins and you love playing hockey, and you know you're used to minus 30 weather, and then all of a sudden someone says, no, you're not from here, you got to go back to home, which is Brazil, this place that you feel like a fish out of water, and you don't speak the language very well, you don't have friends. That creates this void, I think, within myself and many people that immigrate early from one place to the next, right? You're always searching for home. What is home? It was very tough for me, and I think it's something that I'll deal with my entire life, just like many people that share this experience of moving at such an early age.
But it inspired him too. Filipe went to university in Canada, but since his parents had been forced to move back to Brazil, they rarely got a chance to see each other. He had always known that one day he wanted to go on his own long ride, just like Chifley. And now he knew what that ride would be. Across the Americas, from his adopted home in Canada to his childhood home in Brazil. Every cell in his body, he says, was screaming at me to get on those horses and ride home. They were called Frenchie and Bruiser.
Those are the two horses that I started the trip with. They were given to me. I met them 7 days before I was to start. Frenchie was insane. Like, he's one of those horses that you could see the white in his eyes. You know, you can see there's fire in his soul. And the first time I went to work with him, he bucked, almost killed me, broke my finger, ripped my pants. But the bond that was created with these animals, you know, the friendship, the trust, the teamwork, you know, to spend almost 2 years and a half crossing all kinds of problems and countries and continents with these horses. And, you know, I always say that every horse has different characteristics, just like people. And, you know, Frenchie was the tank. He was very strong, but he was also like the scared child, like afraid of everything. He needed so much reassurance from me. You know, Frenchie, it's okay. It's going to be okay. This hole's not going to eat you. Whereas Bruiser was like the sleek quarter horse that was just like, I'd say he was a 007 of the team. So smart, such an amazing horse, just built for a king. But at the same time, he wasn't as strong as Frenchie, and he would get hurt, easier. And I really had to always keep an eye on him. And if something happened to him, he would take longer to get back at it. And then we had Dude, which was a Mustang that was given to me in the southern part of the United States. He was like the bleach blonde surfer dude, looked like he smoked a joint, never really opened his eyes all the way. Just so calm, so cool, so collected. I saw that horse roll off a mountain 3 times, get up, shake it off, and start eating. I was like, oh my God. But yeah, they all complemented each other, and our bond became so close. It was unbelievable.
In his book, Chifley wrote, "Eventually there was only one thing to do: screw up all my courage, burn all the bridges behind me, and start a new life, no matter whither it might lead. Convinced that he who has not lived dangerously has never tasted the salt of life. One day, I decided to take the plunge." And with those words in his head, Filipe took the first stride of his 10,000-mile journey home.
It's like the best and the worst day of your life, Like, I wasn't scared. I was in complete panic. Like, I felt a fear I'd never felt before in my life. Like, it was insane. Like, I didn't know where I was going to sleep that night. I didn't know how the hell I was going to get to the U.S. border. Everyone said I was going to be killed crossing Mexico. And you start to believe these things. You start to question everything, like people telling you, you're throwing your life in the garbage, man. Like, what are you doing? You're going to die. The horses are going to die. This is ridiculous. So all those feelings, like, they start to kind of play out in your head, and your own feelings of survival, right? It's scary as shit, but at the same time, it's very gratifying because you've spent an entire life dreaming about this. You spent 2 years trying to get everything you needed in order to take this first step. Like I always say, there's always a journey before the journey. Like, no one gave me these things. It took me 2 years of strategic planning, not only to draw the route, to learn how to do this, to talk to long riders that had gone out there and felt and experienced these problems before, but also get the money, get the saddle, get the pack saddle, get the permits, get the horseshoes. Like, I didn't have a single horseshoe to make this happen. So yeah, it's a mix of emotions, but I think the biggest one is utter panic, just fear of like, what am I doing? And that's when it hits you. Like, it's one thing to talk about it, to romanticize, to draw it on a piece of paper or in Google Maps. My friend, it's another thing to climb into that squeaky saddle when it's like 35 degrees Celsius, July in Calgary, point your horses out and start. And that's when you're like, what the fuck did I do?
He began at the Calgary Stampede, one of the biggest rodeos in the world, and headed south. With the horses, Filipe could only travel a maximum of 30 kilometers a day, about 18 miles. That's it. 3 kilometers an hour, the equivalent of a slow amble. After 21 days, he crossed the US border into Montana and into the worst drought the US had had in a generation. The streams were bone dry. Finding water for the horses became a huge problem. He was exhausted. You only eat after your horses have eaten, he says. You only drink after they've had something to drink. And you only rest when your horses are resting and happy. but somehow they made it, crossing the state into Yellowstone National Park on the 51st day of his journey.
I was in the back country, like crossing Specimen Ridge, one of the highest peaks in the park. Brian Anderson went with me, just an old time cowboy. There's so many grizzlies there. I couldn't carry a gun. He brought old meat in the pot, as he used to call it, his shotgun. And him and I went up this trail. And one of the days, we just climbed this gigantic peak. It was like we were never going to get to the end of it. Every time we got to the top of this, like, you're just climbing up, holding on the horse's tails to get up this mountain. And when you get to the top, where you're like, I'm at the top, you would see the trail snaking up ahead even more. You're like, oh my God, we're going to die. And we get up to the summit of this mountain just as the sun is about to set, and you see all these veins around you, which is these mountain ranges. And there's a herd of sheep, of mountain sheep up there. And the whole world is turning pink around you, and it's complete silence. And it's just myself, this epic cowboy, 4 horses at the time. And it was just like those moments. It's just like, man, how many people have been up in this mountain? How many people will see the sunset? How many people will get to experience like a moment like this? When those moments, like they burn something into your soul.
From Yellowstone, he crossed into Wyoming, where he worked for a while on a cattle ranch, and then on again into Colorado, heading south, running from the winter closing in behind him. And as profound as moments in nature like that were, it was the people that he met along the way that had the biggest impact.
My journey is built around the kindness of humanity. Every 20 miles, you have to knock on someone's door and ask for help. And you don't know these people, you've never seen them. Not only are you asking for help for you, but you got 3 animals that also need help. Tough thing to do in the 21st century as we, get deeper and deeper into our phones and our tablets and our computers, right? And don't trust one another. So I get to Cray, Colorado. I asked this fella for help. His name is Peter Lisker, and I'm there for a few days. And before I leave his house, this guy is like staring at me like really weird, right? And he comes up to me and says, Filipe, I'm going to ask you something. It's really weird, but I believe in God. I believe in the universe, and something brought you to my doorstep. I would like to ask you to take my sister on this ride with you. And I looked at him like shocked. I'm like, what is this guy talking about, right? And he went on to tell me that his sister Naomi had passed away a few months earlier, and she loved horses, she loved adventure, and he literally felt like, I could have asked for help 3 ranches back, 4, further down. Like I went to his doorstep, and he felt that, she loved horses so much, she loved adventure, that if she was alive, he would never be able to keep her in the home. She would go with me on this journey. It was built for her. So he asked me to take Naomi's ashes with me down the road, and I put the ashes in the pack saddle and started heading down. Once I got a month further down the road, I got to this little town called Cuba, New Mexico, and I was really tired. I left the horses in a rodeo arena in the center of town, and I put the boxes from the pack saddle with all my tack with the horses. Usually I'd carry it out, but I was so tired. I'm like, you know what? I'll leave it in here tonight. The horses aren't going to touch it. Tomorrow, I'll bring everything out. Put up my tent, fell asleep. I wake up at like 5 a.m, unzip my tent. When I look out, Frenchie, the tank that only did bad things, the horse that almost killed me before he started, had knocked the boxes over. He had knocked the ashes out of its little container, and he was eating Naomi's ashes. I was like, dear baby Jesus. I'm like, what did I do to deserve this? So I run out there in boots and underwear, hop over the fence, get Frenchie off the ashes, put them back in the container, say a Hail Mary, apologize to Naomi. What I ended up like seeing and feeling throughout the trip is that this woman didn't come with me for one last ride. She came to be our guardian angel. There were so many moments where I thought I was going to die, or I thought the horses were going to die. And that's one of the biggest, another big lesson that you get from doing this is that when you're completely connected to nature, and you are removed from technology and these cement blocks we've built around us, there is a higher sense of like these signs that the universe, God, whoever sends to you. And if I was staring into my phone at that moment, if I would let my pride, if I wouldn't have taken those ashes, I would have been like, man, are you freaking crazy? Like, I'm going to carry some dead woman with me from Canada to Brazil. But that was the universe sending me this guardian angel. When you're out there, you know what I mean? And you're truly connected to it all, to the experience, to the moment, and you realize that everything is connected. You kind of have this sensibility that I think we're losing.
After New Mexico, Filipe continued to ride south into Texas, wide open empty spaces camping under the stars. He was nearing the end of the US part of the journey and about to cross into Mexico. And things were about to get serious.
So the feeling crossing the border from the US into Mexico was that I was riding into my own funeral. It was inevitable. I would be killed because like for the past 7 months to get there to that Mexican border, and for those 7 months, every American and Canadian I met told me I was going to be killed in Mexico. And then I was always like, have you ever been to Mexico? It's like, I went once to an all-inclusive. It's like, what the hell do you know? Like, you know nothing. You're puking at me what the media sells to you. So that's fine. But then when I got to the southern United States, every Mexican I met was like, they're going to kill you in Mexico. I was like, fuck, they're going to kill me in Mexico. Like, and this is like 2012, 2013. Felipe Calderon was the president. He had waged a full-out warfare against the top narcos, killed most of them off. What happened then is that the little guys started fighting for the turf, for those big spots. So it was like everybody was killing everybody. It was in fact really dangerous what was going on. But I had no other way to get to Brazil other than crossing Mexico. But what I encountered in Mexico was the opposite of that, man. They killed me. They definitely killed me with love, with respect, with solidarity. No one celebrating my journey like the Mexicans. Like everywhere we got, they would stop us on the side of the road to give us taquitos, pizzas, beer, tequila. Every night they would take us in. Some days 7-10 people would ride with me. One day 1,000 horsemen and women saddled their horses in Mexico. Like I became the Forrest Gump of the horse world. Like it was insane. And it was like that all over the country.
He was in southern Mexico. It was a monsoon-like rainstorm, so torrential you could barely see. Filipe pulled into a roadside restaurant for some shelter, and perhaps because he'd hurried to get out of the storm, or maybe just perhaps through exhaustion or just sheer bad luck, Frenchie's tether came untied. He wandered onto the highway and got hit by a car. By all rights, he should have died or broken a leg and had to be put down. But someone was watching over him. Maybe it was Naomi. And after a month of nursing him back to health, Frenchie was ready to ride again. It was day 372 of his journey.
It became so hard to cross the borders in Central America because of the bureaucracy, because of the corruption. Like I would get to these borders and they just wouldn't even know what to do with me, right? Like a guy with 3 horses, that's when the problems started. They wanted money. They wanted, they didn't know what exams needed to get done to let me in. And so I started crossing the borders illegally. And to get from Guatemala to Honduras, I was in the middle of the mountains. You cross the same routes that they used to push cocaine and whatever else you want. It was 45 degrees Celsius, humidity. I'm in the middle of this jungle. It was the rainy season, so it was very muddy. The horses couldn't get up, so I'd have to literally grab one horse by the lead rope, fight my way up this muddy mess, slipping and falling, and walk up 200 meters, go back, get the second horse, go back, get the third horse. All day I'm riding up this mountain. And in that part of the world, you can't just go up these routes without letting the people that control them know who you are, because they're just going to kill you and then find out whose body it was, right? So I get up, finally make it to Honduras, and there's a drug lord waiting for me who's giving me safe passage. And I end up staying 3 days in his home. He has a petting zoo. Everyone's armed to the tits, AK-47s, automatic weapons. Kids as young as 9 years old working for the cartel. I always say that, like, he was such a contradiction. Like, although, like, he was so bad, like, I couldn't look in his eyes because they were like mate black. There was no like spark. Like, you could see how much evil it harbored. But with his family, with his wife, with his community, with me, he was such a loving person. And he loved his children so much. He's like, my son's gonna be an astronaut one day. He's so intelligent. Like, and the love that he had, he built a hospital for his community. He talked about how he was dirt poor growing up, and the only way that he found to get himself out of this life and grow was to start taking cocaine from Honduras into Guatemala, the same route that I traveled. And because he had so much courage, he grew up, and today he is the boss of the region.
The cartel boss and a group of his men rode with Filipe through northern Honduras to keep him safe, side by side. But the cartel could only protect him so far.
I ended up seeing 2 people shot dead in Central America. And then in the capital of Honduras was the worst moment of my life. I was staying in a little hotel, Airbnb type thing. I was the only person staying there. And the owner of the house tried to kill his wife with 5 gunshots. I didn't know if he had killed her. I didn't know if he was going to come kill me next, as I was the only person who had seen what was happening. So yeah, those are moments that, they kind of seep into your soul. And I've gained a lot of good things from this, but I've also gained a lot of bad things that, you can't shake off. It changes who you are for the rest of your life. I still wake up sometimes with nightmares about what happened. When I finished that first trip, I had symptoms of PTSD. You know what I mean? I went into depression, anxiety, reoccurring nightmares. So, you got to take the good with the bad and use everything as a learning experience. And that's what I've tried to do, even with these negative moments.
From Honduras, he crossed into Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Panama. There were more moments of soul-searing epic nature, more moments when the universe would send people to help him on his journey. But also many, many days where he had to endure this journey alone.
One of the hardest parts about doing what I did is just spending so much time alone in the middle of nowhere, and also with these animals that you need to take care of, right? Like, you're not just by yourself. You have a huge responsibility with you, which are these 3 babies basically that need to get fed, need to get watered, are always doing bad things and getting themselves into trouble. It makes you lose your sanity very quickly, It's like having a pebble in your boot that it's there and you can feel it, but you're too tired to get your boot off and take it off, so you just ride with it. But eventually that pebble becomes a boulder and it's all you can think about, and you don't want to think about it, but it's there pressing against your skin and controlling your every thought and your every move, and that's what loneliness is. So, but the other side of that is that, to me, I feel like the self-knowledge I have today came from those moments of being out there by myself for 5 to 10 days without seeing another human being, because it makes you have conversations that are tough to have. You know what I mean? You get difficult answers. You literally talk to yourself because you have nothing else to do. You know what I mean? I'd always say, first day I'd sing. I have a terrible voice. Second day I'd talk to my horses. They never got back to me. The 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th days, your life plays out in your mind. You have a conversation with yourself. Are you truly happy? Where do you want to get in 5, 10 years? Why are you here today? So to me, those were moments that were so important to me as well and have made me who I am today. But it's a very dangerous dance, that's for sure.
Entering South America was the home straight, but he still had many hundreds of miles to go. Day 600 into Peru, day 650 Bolivia, and then finally across the border and into Brazil, and a hero's welcome. He spent 3 months riding across the country. His journey meant so much to the people of Brazil. Until finally, on day 803, Frenchie, Bruiser, Dude, and Filipe turned down a small dirt road leading through lush green hills to the farm where he was raised and the arms of his family waiting for him.
It was unbelievable. The moment that I said I was going to do this, the moment I met Frenchie and Bruiser, the moment we took that first step, the anxiety is unbelievable. It's like, here's your child. I imagine it'd be the same feeling. And you hold that child and you go, holy fuck, now I need to keep this thing alive for the rest of its life, right? And with horses, like, they can't speak, you know what I mean? They're big animals, like, so much could have happened. That was the biggest thing to me. It was like someone removed a piano from my back. It was like, we're done. I take the saddle off for the last time. I thank them, and it's like, we made it, you know, like all the fears, all the anxiety, what everyone said, the horses are gonna die, and the moments where Bruiser was in the ditch and Frenchie was hit by the truck and dude went into a cattle guard and the truck's licking us at 120 kilometers an hour, you know, and yeah, that was the biggest thing, was just like the relief. It was a huge relief of being like, we've made it. The other part of it was seeing my family, you know, they were so important. They were so monumental to this working out. Like, when, you know, the bullets were flying, when I was crying, when I was scared, when I was at the lowest of the low in that first journey, I would take myself to my family. I would feel my mother's touch and her love, and my dad and my sisters, and I would just hug them in my mind, and I would be there. I'd be home. And I thought that so much. I lived that so much, and I experienced that so much. And here, that one day it became truth.
He gave the horses, as he had promised, the best retirement they could wish for. Beautiful pastures to roam free. His dad had built new stables for them, plenty to eat, plenty to drink. No more work to be done. He took off their bridles, rubbed their noses, and thanked each one of them. And with that, their journey was done. But he had one more thing to do. He poured Naomi's ashes into his hands, said a prayer, and threw them to the wind, asking her to keep watch over the horses, to keep them safe. And then his life fell apart.
You get used to this life, like it becomes your life. 803 days chasing kilometers, you know, this nomadic lifestyle with your horses. And then all of a sudden, from one day to the next, as soon as you step down from the saddle, that all changes, you know, that all goes away. I think I'm riding home from Canada to Brazil. I get there, my life falls apart. I realize, like, this does not feel like home. Like, if anything, I felt way more at home at the beginning of this whole experience. And it's a huge disconnect, and it's tough to deal with.
The home he had spent 2 years riding towards ended up not feeling like his home at all. He fell into depression, anxiety. He couldn't sleep. He drank too much. He didn't know what to do with his life. And then, a few months after he'd arrived back in Brazil, he visited a children's cancer hospital.
I'm completely broken at that moment. And like, those kids to me was just like, man, like, look at everything you've accomplished. Look at how healthy you are. Look at everything you have. Like, we need to get out of this. And I find out they need to raise $17 million a month to keep the doors open at the hospital. I think, what can I do to raise funds? What can I do to help? I can ride horses long distance, open a map, see that there's 7,500 kilometers to get to Ushuaia, Argentina. And I say, what the hell? I'm going to go there. Not really understanding why I'm doing all this, right? Just kind of following instincts again, wanting to help this hospital. And then once I start this journey, you know, I kind of slowly find myself again through the horse and through this experience. And then in Argentina, I meet this lady that gives me a bracelet. First of all, I'm confused. I'm like, why is this woman giving me a woman's bracelet? I'm like, I don't wear bracelets, number one. And this is clearly a woman's bracelet. And I go, hey, thank you so much for the present, but I don't wear bracelets. And she goes, this is not for you. She goes, you're going to meet your soulmate on this journey. And I was like, lady, do you have eyes? Like, look at me. I smell bad. I'm dirty. My pants are ripped. Like, if I can't meet the love of my life at home, like, why am I going to meet her in the middle of Patagonia when there's like 7 people that live there? So anyways, but you know, I'm afraid of these witch ladies, right? So I'm like, I'm going to take this bracelet, right? I'm not going to give it back to her. So I take the bracelet, and a couple months later, sure enough, I get to this little town called El Bolson, Patagonia, Argentina. And there is a brunette there by the name of Clara Victoria Davel. And when I look into this woman's eyes, I was like, oh, I'm like, that's why I'm supposed to be here. Like, now it all makes sense. Like, I was meant to meet this woman. Like, that was never my dream. I was never supposed to be riding a horse through Patagonia. Then I find myself there with this bracelet in my pocket, and I give it to her, and the rest is history.
Clara accompanied him part of the way to Ushuaia and was there to meet him at the end. And as that journey ended, theirs began.
One of the big learning experiences from doing this, you realize that home is not a geological location, a physical location, but a state of feeling at peace with yourself, regardless of whether you're on a beach in Guatemala or on top of the Andes in Patagonia. And I say, to me, home is being with Clara, this person that I fell in love with and met on the journey. But it doesn't need to be a person, it's about a feeling.
But he wasn't quite finished yet. His last ride, this time with Clara by his side, would complete the loop, taking him from Alaska back to Calgary, meaning in total, he would have ridden across the entire North American continent on horseback, the youngest person ever to do so. All 3 trips combined, Filipe had ridden more than 15,000 miles across 12 countries. He had tasted the salt of life and become the story that he himself had heard those many years ago. The tale of the young man who screwed up all his courage and got on his horses in search of a new life, wherever it might lead. The journey ended at the Calgary Stampede in the exact place it had started 8 years ago. And on that day, he got down on one knee and asked the love of his life, who he'd found in Patagonia with a silver bracelet, for her hand in marriage. And she said yes. He had found his home. Its name was Clara. Thank you, Filipe, and congratulations. The last time we spoke, the wedding was scheduled for March 1st of this year, so they're probably throwing confetti just about now. And if you've been inspired by his story, but maybe haven't found your home, keep looking, because it is where the heart is, and you only find it by taking that first stride. You can drop Filipe a line on Instagram and follow his next and greatest adventure with Clara at Filipe Masetti. And by the way, is that not the greatest How I Met My Partner story ever? Please also go ahead and check out that documentary. It's awesome. I really enjoyed it, and loads more than we could fit in here. It's called The Long Rider, a journey of 25,000 kilometers starts with a single stride. You can rent it on Amazon or wherever you get your shows. Remember to check out my Instagram too, at armchair-explorer podcast. My horse story doesn't come close to matching Filipe's, obviously, but it is quite funny. I've got 2 actually. The time I survived a runaway horse in Colombia, and a hilarious video of me being rescued on an Arabian stallion. After I lied about my equestrian experience, I won't be doing that again. So I'm going to be sharing those in the next couple of weeks. Check it out. And that's all for now. So keep searching, keep believing, and keep taking that first step to follow your dreams. Because the more we look for wonder in the world, the more the wonder of the world becomes a part of who we are. Dare to be truly alive. This episode was produced by Armchair Productions. Find our other shows at armchair-productions.com. Charles Tyree did the audio editing and sound design. My name's Aaron Miller. I wrote and presented it. I'll see you guys next time.
Quick question. Do you want travel tips from people who have actually been there?
Our show is co-hosted by Tim Johnson, an award-winning travel journalist who's been to more than 145 countries around the world. And I'm David Brody, the other co-host who's been travel podcasting for 20 years while traveling to 50-plus countries around the world.
In about 10 or 20 minutes per show, we break down a destination with the kind of insight you usually only get from long guidebooks or hours of research.
So if you want expert advice, zero fluff, and travel inspiration that you can actually use, search for Travel in 10 wherever you listen to podcasts, or you can also find us at boyescape.com.
Hi, I'm Pauline Fromer, host of the Fromers Travel Podcast. We post new episodes weekly, detailing the kinds of money-saving tips and cultural insights that will make your trips richer without making you significantly poorer. We do so by interviewing real travel experts like TV host Samantha Brown, Fromers authors from around the globe, and such public figures as Free Solo's Alex Honnold. It's a fun travel party. I hope you can join us.